Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a real blast from the past. We are playing Tarmorack in 2023. That's right, Tarmorack. So as you can imagine, this deck hinges around two cards, one of them being Tarmogoyf, the other one being the Rack. So, how does this deck function? So what we're trying to do is pick apart our opponent's hand. Now, we've got these 4 Thoughtseize, these 4 Liliana Veils, and a couple of Hymns. Now, this doesn't seem like the most amount of discard, because the problem with discard is it has diminishing returns. You get to a certain point, and discard spells you draw are just kind of bad, and Liliana kind of just keeps their hand down anyway, so we're pretty much trying to hit them with 1 or 2 pieces and then stick a Liliana. And we're not fully all in on the Rack in some ways. We've only got 3 of them because this new little card, I say new, it's been around for a while, but we didn't have it back in the day when we used to play Tarmorack, is Urza Saga. This can find us all the racks we want, which can then drain our opponent out, but it can also find some useful things like a Pithing Needle, so it can stop top deck Minsk and Booze and things like that. Shadowspear to give ourselves a decent sized creature that's got lifelink. Nihil Spellbomb to remove opponent's graveyard. Sometimes if we're discarding a load of cards from our opponents, they might be alright with them in their graveyard, so this gets rid of the graveyard, and also this is something we can just draw as a cantrip later on if we need to. And we have a Haywire Mite to get rid of any problem permanents that stick around and play. Now, to go alongside this, we've got what I would just describe as rock-like tools. So we've got a solid card in Grist that we can go and find with the Green Sun Zenith. We've got 2 Endurances as an alternative creature defined with our Green Sun Zenith as well as our Tarmogoyfs. We've got a single Ignoble Hierarch and a Dryad Arbor. So we've got a little bit of mana ramp here so we can jump up into the Liliana a bit earlier. Gives us some flexibility with the Green Suns. And then the rest of our deck is pretty much just the disruption. So we've got the Thoughtseize we mentioned already, but we've got 3 Fatal Pushes as removal. Now, since the bans have taken place, it means that we're not necessarily having to kill 4-drops as much. We're going to be looking to kill things like Delvers and Dragon's Race Channelers, and maybe some Death and Taxes decks might be coming back in the format, so we can nab them with a Fatal Push a bit better. Then we got these 3 Sudden Edicts, which can be pretty useful for killing anything large, as long as that's the only thing they have in play, and we can double it up with our other edicts in the Liliana and control the board that way. That's more or less our game plan, just make a really big Tarmogoyf and smash people with it. We also have a couple of Sylvan Library to help draw us some more cards, and we can offset the life loss using our Shadowspear later on. Most of our mana is mana-wise, apart from our Sagas, but we do also have a couple of Boseijus, which we can use to blow up problem permanents alongside our Haywire Mite as well, so we have a little bit of flexibility in what we're doing there. There's no real room for wastelands here. We're attacking our opponent's hand rather than their mana base. The idea is they don't have anything to play with their lands, rather than trying to wasteland them away and strand things in their hand. So that's more or less the plan. Relatively simple, but we'll make some big Tarmogoyfs and hopefully strip our opponent of answers and just go ham with it. Sideboard-wise, we've got 2 more discard spells. These are Tourachs. So any deck with white spells in, like white removal and stuff, we're going to bring in these Tourachs because the decks that have white removal often have more cards in hand anyway, because they're sort of more control-y. So we can bring these in, so it won't be able to get hit. This will get big on its own, and yeah, should be pretty good. There is definitely an argument for putting this in the main deck, possibly over some removal spells. But I figured we'll just put it in the sideboard for now and see how we go. We've got 3 Plague Engineer because I don't really want to lose to Elves or Goblins, so here we are. This also does have some utility against other decks, but mostly it's for those. We have 1 Runner Foul. This is just another way of blowing up Murktide Regents. We already have our Edicts, but this is just a guaranteed way of hitting it. Also hits Marit Lage tokens, which is nice. We've got another Green Sun Zenith target in Collector Ouphe, which is going to be really good against Storm and 8-cast and Paint-cast type decks. A couple of Chokes, because let's just mess up some blue decks. I think there's going to be a lot of blue decks right now, so let's smash them down. We have 2 more Endurances for pieces of Graveyard Hate. Now, if you watch my channel, you know that I talk about how Endurance isn't really a good piece of Graveyard Hate a lot of the time because the Reanimator decks, like the dedicated Graveyard decks like Reanimator, they just discard out your hand before they do their stuff anyway. But what this is really good against is Delver decks. And Delver is, they may have just had Expressive Iteration banned, but in my opinion, the best deck in the format is going to be a Dragon's Race Channeler deck. And I think that's probably going to be the case until Dragon's Race Channeler isn't in Legacy anymore, to be honest. The selection it gives you is really good. The fact that it's a 1-drop that attacks a 3, it kind of does everything you want to do in Legacy. So Endurance is very good against these Murktide, Dragon's Rage Channel decks, and lots of people are trying to find the right Delver build for them right now, so there's going to be a lot of that in the leagues. We've got some other removal here, so we've got a couple of Force of Vigors and a couple of Abrupt Decays to sort of get some problem permanents that maybe our Sudden Edicts and things aren't really hitting. We could have had a little bit more discard in the sideboard potentially. These are other, there are other options we had available to us. But this is what we've gone with. I think we're going to be playing against a lot of Delvery type decks, maybe a little different sizes, maybe some more mid-rangey, maybe some more tempo-y. And I just wanted to have a decent suite of removal for today. So, this is Tarmorack. This is 2023. Let's play some Legacy. Oh, also, like, comment, subscribe. Do that too. Okay, let's play. Alright, we're on the draw for the first game. Our hand has a piece of removal, and hand disruption, and a win condition in it. So this seems pretty decent to me. So we're going to give this a keep. And our opponent's on the draw, which means on the play, sorry, which means they're going to have one less draw step than us, which helps with our discard plan when we eventually get there. But we're probably going to just sort of drain them out with Liliana hand-wise, and then the Urza Saga can play the thing. Okay, Underground Sea. This could be Doomsday, which is one of the big winners from the bans in a lot of ways because the initiative was very hard for them. So, what would we like to play here? I think we want to make sure that we have him to Tourach on turn 2. So I think we're just going to play out I think we play out the Wooded Foothills here. This way we can crack it when we need to, and we're not exposed to Wasteland in case that's something our opponent does. We could have just played out a Shadowspear here, but I don't think that's necessary right now. I think it's better to... Okay, and there's a Saga. This could be Cephalid Breakfast is what I'm suspecting. Okay, this definitely looks like Cephalid Breakfast. All right. Let's crack this and get ourselves a Bayou. Let's play out another Bayou and point this at our opponent's face. Let's him to Tourach you. We don't really want to burn our Fatal Push. So what do we hit? A Cephalid Illusionist and a Baleful Strix. Sure. We didn't really want to use our Fatal Push on the Narcomoeba, and our Liliana's probably going to be plussing. If they play another creature, we can always Fatal Push it and then plus later. Okay, so this Narcomoeba is going to come in. We can't really play out our Liliana because we need to hold up our Fatal Push in case they can combo off, because this can go and get them a Shuko. So our plan here is play our Tarmogoyf, who's going to be relatively large. So we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4 types there. So we got a 4/5 for 2 mana, not too shabby. And we've got a Fatal Push in case they play a Cephalid Illusionist. Sure, they can make a 1/1, which will be a 3/3 on attacks if they make another token and find a thing. If they have a Shuko, it can be a 4-power creature on attacks, unless they have another artifact. Okay, they're not making a thing. That doesn't fill me with a great amount of joy. So there's the Shuko. Nomads and Core. Okay, do they have the Cephalid Illusionist here? So, the problem we have here is our opponent can, if we kill the Cephalid Illusionist, they just keep targeting it in response with this Nomads and Core. Because this is instant speed, so they kind of have us coming and going here. So I guess we have to scoop this one up. A little bit sad. Alright, so Plague Engineer is going to be pretty useful here. The Chokes definitely have text. The Collector Ouphe can stop the Shuko, but that's about it. Abrupt Decay is pretty useful here. Force of Vigor can be useful. Endurances can mess with their graveyard sometimes. Shuffle it in after they've milled themselves, and with the Thassa's Oracle on the stack, obviously they will have the ability to Cabal Therapy us, potentially. So, I'm not sure how useful our Sudden Edicts are going to be. I think we want the precise removal. The Pithing Needle is pretty useful here. I don't really want to board out the rack, because that's kind of what we're trying to do, but it's probably the right thing to board out here, which is a little bit sad. The Haywire Mite isn't necessary. That's one we can get rid of. We definitely need the Nihil Spellbomb. The Shadowspear, I think, is going to be good if we end up in like a dueling Saga token plan. So we've got 5 cards too many here. How useful is this Grist? I think it's okay, but I think we can probably trim on some of these. We'll keep 1 rack in so we can go and fight it when we need to. We just need to try and fit 2 more cards in here. We could be looking at taking out a couple of Green Sun Zenith. That seems so weird though. But the reason is these are basically becoming endurances. So yeah, we'll try like this. We could have brought in the Tourach as well as an option, but I think this is still fine. We need to mulligan this. We don't really have any starting mana that we can work with. This we can work with. So we'll keep this. One of these has to go. What is it going to be? Probably the bonus Lily. We don't need that one. Seems relatively straightforward. So we'll play out our Wooded Foothills. We'll go and get ourselves a Bayou. Our opponent's not going to be messing with our mana base because they have breakfast. Get the Bayou. We'll play out this Nihil Spellbomb. So while this is on the table, our opponent can't combo. Unless they have the Thassa's Oracle in hand, they can just mill their whole library and they don't have to dread return it. Alright. So I'd like to draw another land. A Sylvan Library. Okay, yeah, that's pretty good. I think we'll play out this library. Not necessarily sure this is going to resolve. But we're not really in a spot where we can do anything else. So we kind of have to try and make a bit of action here. Okay, they're brainstorming for an answer. Because obviously if we get the library, we can just spend a load of life to pick apart their hand by drawing more cards. Okay, we got the library. I'm not in a bad spot right now. An Ether Vial, sure. We can Pithing Needle this Ether Vial if we want to, or we can hold this Pithing Needle for something like Nomads and Core, which is right there. Let's see what our Sylvan Library finds us. Okay, we're going to just draw up all these cards and get through them. So, our choices here involve, I think we're probably looking at just playing out our Liliana here. And we're just going to get rid of the Nomads and Core right now. So they can just go Sephard Illusionist Shuko, but we have the Nihil Spellbomb to stop the combo. We also have an Endurance Tarmogoyf backup if we need something like... Unless they have something like a Dryad Arbor, this Ether Vial isn't going to do them any good. I'm not expecting our life total to be the thing that's going to cost us the game here. So that's why I'm happy to funnel a load of life into the Sylvan Library. Ponder, sure. Now we also have to consider what we're going to discard to the Liliana, but we get to see 3 cards and make our decisions based on that. Sure. A Baleful Strings. Which draws our opponent a card. So let's use our library and see what we get. I like this Thoughtseize. I don't really want the Green Sun Zenith just yet, so we're going to put this on top. And I think we'll pay 4 life to keep this on. So, I think we lead out on the Thoughtseize here. Okay, Baleful Strix, Step Through. Step Through represents... I think it's the plow that we're trying to get rid of here. So one of the Strixes. I think it's one of the Strixes, weirdly, here. We don't want them to just keep gaining loads and loads of cards. So, what are we going to discard? I think we want to plus our Liliana. I think we're probably getting rid of this Dryad Arbor. Opponent discarded the plow. So now we can... We've got choices here. We can either play out our Tarmogoyf and start representing a clock, which I think is probably the best thing we can do here. So we've got Green Sun Zenith on top of our library that we can use to go and get another Goyf if we want one. They might hold back the Strix, so they might try and pressure our life total. We could have played a Pithing Needle on Ether Vial, but right now they could just play this and still cycle their step through anyway. I think it was better to hit the Strix with the Thoughtseize and just deploy a threat. Sure. So this is coming at the Liliana. Alright. That's fine by me. We can't really pay life for any more Sylvan Library here. Let's see what we have. Choke is interesting. I don't think we want this Thoughtseize. Tough choice, this one. I think we put this on top of library and then the choke. So if we attack, our opponent will put in this Baleful Strix. We can kill the Baleful Strix, but it will cost us our Fatal Push. I think that's fine. We need to get this game won at some point, so we're going to take a quite aggressive line here. We do it before they draw a card in case they draw a way of interacting with our spell on the stack. Play a Pithing Needle. Yeah, so I can Pithing Needle Step Through, so they're doing Step Through to go and get the Illusionist, I imagine. There it is. So this turn we're going to name Ether Vial. So this shuts off the mana portion of their deck. And they've got 3 cards in hand. So I think we plus our Liliana here. And I think we're just getting rid of the Green Sun Zenith here. Okay, a Polluted Delta from our opponent. So we know the top card of our library is Choke, so if we need to in emergency, we can go and get the Choke so that we can pitch cast Endurance. So we've got that line covered. And there's a Saga. It's a pretty good one. There's the Illusionist, which means this is attacking our Liliana. Or not. Yeah, sure. There. Right. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. So if we put this on top of our library, and do we want to play... I think we want to play the Endurance as well this turn. They've got another Baleful Strix. That's pretty bad for us, but it looks like they don't. Okay. So we go green, 1, and green. Play this guy. Do you want our opponents to have these cards in their deck? I don't think so. Do we want to shuffle this Thoughtseize and Choke off the top of our deck? I think we do. Just so we get to see some fresh ones next turn. And then we do this now so we can plus and take the last card out of our opponent's hand. Plow on our guy. Sure. That gives us more life to work with if we want to do some shenanigans here. It does mean that they can kill our Liliana though. if they send both creatures at it, which is less ideal for us, obviously. We still have a library, so we're looking at 3 a turn. Our opponent is just drawing 1 card a turn. The reason I don't like the choke is because our opponent doesn't have to activate this till our end step anyway, so we're not going to capture any lands sleeping, and they'll just have full information, probably just won't activate. Okay, so they have a Nomads in core. I see. They can't go off while the Spellbomb's in play, though. She's both coming at Liliana. She unfortunately has to meet her demise. What we could have done, I guess, is plus the Liliana and then play the... No, it doesn't. There's no way we could have done it to avoid the plow. All right. Let's have a look at the top 3. The choke that we shuffled away. This Fatal Push is pretty nice. I think we'll put this Thoughtseize back, and then we'll put this choke back. And we'll go to attacks here. They might just put the Nomads and Core underneath the bus, under the bus here, because they've got the other bits and pieces coming. They did not. Interesting. I don't think we need to Fatal Push right now. So they're getting a guy. Sure. Because our life total is not the highest. So we'll let this ether file tick up. Then when they go to make their... when they put this trigger on the stack, then we'll make our token. So their guys are bigger, but we can mess with things in combat with our Fatal Push. They might... I don't know if there is anything that they're playing that they can maybe sucode till they find the thing that's useful, but they would have done that before. If that. Okay, so this Baleful Strix is a 2/1. Let's see what attacks us. All of these things. So, if we block here, we take 1, 2, 3, 4. We kill this, our Tarmogoyf kills them. 1, 2, 3, 4. That seems like a good place to be. Now, we can still get the Shadowspear here. So, okay. They're milling themselves out here so that they can get Narcomoebas. But Narcomoeba doesn't actually matter because we're going to have Trample on our guy. It kind of matters what our opponent's last card is. Okay, so they hit 2 Narcomoebas there. So let's use our Sylvan Library. We do not want these cards. We could Thoughtseize our opponent, but I don't think we want to do that. We'll just put this on top of our library. This on top of our library. So this is 1, 2. So we can't... We just have to tap it for mana here. We can kill our opponent with a rack. That's a guaranteed kill, whereas Shadowspear... I guess if they've got a plow, they can plow their own creature to survive the Shadowspear. I think we're supposed to get the rack, because this will do exactly 2 damage to our opponent. And we'll make this choke. We don't need to attack here. We just let the rack do the work. Even if they got a Baleful Strix, they'll still die to the rack in their upkeep. If I had a Brazen Borrower, equipping our Tarmogoyf still loses us the game there. Wait, what am I doing? The rack's only going to deal them 1 damage. Oh my god, what have I done? Oh, they had the plow. Interesting. Okay. No, the rack was going to deal them 2, right? Yeah, they had 1 card in hand. It was going to deal them 2. So they gained a load of life. We're on 4. They have 4 in the sky. So we lose the game now. Yeah, so we couldn't beat the plow there. It was right to get the rack, so they have 1 card in hand and deals them 2. Yeah, okay, sure. So they attack with their flyers. Okay, they attack with everything, and then we lose. Oh, we were so close. We were so close. I think we were right to get the rack there. But, yeah, just close, but not close enough. Now, maybe if we'd have been a little bit less aggressive with our Sylvan Library, we could have been okay. But, I don't know, that was pretty close. I don't feel bad about that one. Let's go to round 2. We're on the play. We've got a pretty aggressive looking hand here. We can keep this. Then we lead out on a basic swamp. This will make our opponent think all sorts of things like Reanimator and such like. So let's just Thoughtseize our opponent and see what they're working with. Alright, somebody didn't get the memo. I think we are hitting the Ponder here, because that's the thing that can find them a land easily. If they want to brainstorm, they could brainstorm and lock themselves. As Ponder, they can shuffle. So I'm playing against some sort of blue-whitey initiative. So they drew a Lotus Petal for the turn. Okay. Now we get to cast him to Tourach, targeting our opponent. Not really sure what they're hoping to hide here. Maybe they're just trying to stack it so there is a land on top of their deck. If it's 3 cards down, they want to move it to it's the first card down. We do have a removal spell for their first creature, but we are kind of hampered by the fact that our opponent can already get a Seasoned Engineer and a Snapcast. We are hampered by the fact that they will get the initiative. So we will need to find a creature. We do have Tarmogoyf, and those are creatures. They're good ones. Okay, did they brainstorm lock themselves out of land? That's good. Obviously not great for them, but... So we can play the Sylvan Library, and we can see if they want a Prismatic Ending in our library. Because if they do, they lose one of their mana sources when they're trying to cast a 4 mana spell. So we'll play this one out. This can go and find us a forest, I guess. So we'll cast the library first, because we would prefer this one not to get dazed. So we don't want this to get dazed, so we'll play it out. So if they do have counterspell, it's going to be a force. Oh, they decided not to in the end. All right. So now we have a creature that can attack and steal the initiative. So if they do somehow cast this Seasoned Dungeoneer next turn, we get to kill it with our Sudden Edict and steal the initiative with our 0/1 Exalted, who will be a 1/2 on attacks. We also get to see a boatload of cards next turn, unless they're going to Prismatic Ending this. They've opted to take away one of their lands to do this. Sure, that's fine. If you want to take away one of your only mana sources, that's fine by me. We do need to draw a little bit of business, but we've got some business in our deck. That's some pretty good business. So we know our opponent has a Force of Will, is the one thing here. I think we play out this. Do we play out the Liliana, or do we just attack? We know they have a Force of Will blue card in hand. I think we're supposed to just attack here, get a little bit of damage in, hold up the Edict. I don't really want to plus and remove our Edict. We've already done so well of stifling what our opponent's doing. If we can find a way to make sure that we can resolve a spell, because obviously we play the Liliana, they Force of Will it, then what? We're sort of just attacking for one then. Okay, they found another land. They don't appear to have anything to do with it though. A Dryad Arbor. That does technically attack. So I'm going to play out, I think I'm going to play out this Liliana. I'm expecting it to get counterspelled with that Force. But I'll take the 2-for-1. Yeah, so here's the Force, what are they pitching? A Displacer Kitten. Okay. So now we'll play out the Dryad Arbor in the second main phase. This gives us a 2-power attacker. We've doubled the speed of our clock. We would like to find something like the Tarmogoyf, which would be instant, sorcery, creature, land, artifact, planeswalker. So it'll be a 6-power guy if we can find one. I suspect their deck does have some number of Swords to Plowshares in there. Okay, this is a pretty good one. So we can play a Green Sun Zenith for Tarmogoyf, which is an enormous clock, and we can hold up Sudden Edict off of our Ignoble Hierarch as well. Get in there. I'm going to cast this Green Sun Zenith using our Ignoble Hierarch, I think. Go to Tarmogoyf, we'll get the one with the proper art. So this way we're holding up the Sudden Edict off of basic lands in case that's relevant. So we're holding off of basic lands and our creature can't be killed, so we can aim it for whenever we want. Okay, they're Kraken Flooded Strand. Do they have a play? A Tundra. So this could be another Prismatic Ending. Feels like another ending. Right, they've untapped their lands. And they're tapping them again. What are they doing? This will not kill it. Oh, our opponent's made a mistake there. I think they've realised they said well in chat pretty immediately. They misclicked on that one instead of killing our Goyf. Yeah, we didn't really have that much going on if they killed the Goyf. Okay, so our opponent is playing blue-white Displacer Kitten with initiative because that's a good thing to blink. So these Tourachs look pretty darn tasty to me. The Choke definitely has some text we could utilise. I don't like Abrupt Decay. They're trying to win with 4-drops. I think the Collector Ouphe to shut off petals and things can be useful here. We want to be able to kill their creatures with Grist. I don't think Endurance is going to be that useful in this matchup, so I think we can take those out. I don't think we're going to want the Spellbomb either. Pithing Needle definitely is going to have some uses here. If we get in a slugging match, we're going to want our Shadowspears. Sylvan Library is all good. Grist is good. All this is good. It's a case of, do we want these chokes or not? I think the chokes are going to be good. We're boarding down on Green Sun Zeniths. We are very light on win conditions, though, right now. Maybe we have 2 Endurances in instead of these Green Suns altogether. Although, if we don't have Green Suns, the Collector Ouphe is bad. But the Collector Ouphe is just a guy. I don't think we're desperate to try and draw the Collector Ouphe. I think it's just something that has some text on that's relatively okay. Sure, we'll get rid of this. This is kind of an issue with having the rack as your threat, means they don't actually impact the board. They're only hitting your opponent's life total. Again, that's why we're running 3 of them and not going deep into the tank with a full set. We have a removal spell that can kill a 4-drop because we've got fetch lands. We have a Tarmogoyf. We have a Pithing Needle, which we can use for stuff. I think we can keep this on the draw as well. We get a bit more. I'd rather not have the Dryad Arbor, but I'll live. A basic Plains. So our opponent's deck is going to have a Teferi in. Question is, do we want... I think we just play out the Verdant Catacombs here and hold back, potentially Fatal Pushing if they accelerate out a Seasoned Dungeoneer this turn. We can get punished if they deploy a Teferi this turn. That'd be pretty bad because obviously we could have Pithing Needled the Teferi away. Or we could have got really cheesy and tried to Pithing Needle the Flooded Strands that our opponent has, but I don't think that's worthwhile cause. A Tundra from our opponent and no follow-up. That's pretty good. Let's see what we get here. So if we play the Sylvan Library out and our opponent has a Teferi, they just bounce the library. And then we're not in a great spot. So I think we're probably looking at Pithing Needle this turn. We do need to save a fetch land so that we can use our Fatal Push as removal for a big creature. Okay, another land is good here. Let's play and crack this. I don't think our opponent's going to be messing with our lands here. I guess we can get a forest if we want one though. But we already have this Dryad Arbor. I'm just going to get a Bayou. And we're going to play a Pithing Needle. We're going to name Teferi Time Rattler because we've seen Displacer Kitten. So they have Teferi in because that's the combo. That's the thing that you keep blinking, bouncing, drawing cards. Teferi Time Rattler. I always get that moment when I Pithing Needle to Teferi of have I named the right one because there's a lot of Teferis kicking around. But I'm pretty sure it's Time Rattler. An Ancient Tomb. So this is the turn they can deploy a Seasoned Dungeoneer. They did not deploy a Seasoned Dungeoneer. Understood. Not loving this Dryad Arbor in our hand right now. I'm loving this though. Let's Thoughtseize our opponent and then go from there. Okay, they're going to brainstorm and try and hide the things that are good. We're actually in an awkward spot because if we deploy our Wooded Foothills and crack them both, we don't have a fetch land for our Fatal Push. Brainstorm, Brazen Borrower, Dress Down, Snapcaster Mage, Snapcaster Mage. Guess we take the Borrower here. And let's just crack these. So this one can go and get us. I think we're just on Bayous here. I don't think we need to worry about it, given our opponent's deck and what they're trying to accomplish here. Get these Bayous into play. I think we want this Tarmogoyf. This way, if they do deploy a initiative creature, we've got a bigger creature so we can crash through it. And if we have a fetch land, we can also fatal push something out of the way. So we've got some options here. We've got instant, sorcery, creature, land. So the classic 4 for Tarmogoyf. I'm not really sure what happened there. I think our opponent maybe just had to go or something. They said they were dozing off a little bit. But I think we're in a reasonably nice spot. Obviously, they know the top 2 cards of their library. And if they just don't interact with this Tarmogoyf in a positive way, then we can just crash through. All right, so we got a win on the board. Let's go to round 3. We're on the play for round 3. We have Thoughtseize into Tarmogoyf, the classic opener for Tarmorack days of old. We also are wasteland proof here, so sign me up. This is what we came here to do. Turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Tarmogoyf. Magic like 15 years ago in standard. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a Daze, we have a Narcomoeba. So this is probably another breakfast deck. So I think we take the Daze. That way we can secure our future Tarmogoyf. They have neither half of the combo, so that's nice for us. There's the Polluted Delta. They're going to cast a Ponder this turn, almost certainly. Yep. They did not shuffle their library. That's a little bit less good for us. Right, we've got a land that's not very good for us. Excellent. Let's play this Tarmogoyf. We have a clock. We're on board. There's the first strand. We go to attacks. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hold up here, and we can deploy an Endurance at end of turn, or we can Sudden Edict. Because if our opponent is going to make some guys, we want to be able to not lose that. Okay, yeah. So here's the Wizard cycling. If they just go Nomads and Core, and then cast the Illusionist, then we're in trouble. But we're not in trouble because we have this Sudden Edict available. There's a Tundra. Teferi Time Raveler. That is a different kettle of fish. I think we play out this guy now, though. This way we definitely have a creature that can fight the Teferi. We're not going to shuffle anything in here. So if they bounce our Endurance, we kill them with the Tarmogoyf. If they bounce our Tarmogoyf, we kill them with Endurance. Either way, it works. Back to Teferi. Now we're in a bit of a spot. I think we want to just play out our Haywire Mite here. Because we want to hold up the Sudden Edict, because our opponent can just go Illusionist, Nomads, kill us. We at least have a way of disrupting that right now. Haywire Mite does beat for a tiny bit of damage too. This is also an artifact if we can get it into the graveyard, which will pump our Tarmogoyf. A Ponder. I would very much like to draw a black land. A green land would be fine, but a black land would be way better. That would give us the Tarmogoyf whilst holding up the Sudden Edict, and then we can progress the game into a Liliana in following turns. I felt we were pretty close to beating the Cephalid Illusionist deck earlier, so hopefully we can convert this time. A Shuko. I would like to blow up their Urza Saga. This gives us some life, not that we really need it, but a Green Sun Zenith. So we can get a Green Sun Zenith for a Dryad Arbor, which means the following turn we can deploy the... hold on, we want to do this with our non-basic land. Let's just do this. Not a big fan of this play, but I think it makes sense. Was this going to be a Hardcast Daze? Sure, we just let this go. Okay, our opponent's got 4 cards in hand and we know 3 of them. So if they play out their Narcomoeba first, then we're in trouble. They did not play out their Narcomoeba first. Okay. So they should have played their Sea out, play their Narcomoeba, then play the Illusionist. Yeah. They have another one. Okay, that's why they did that then. We may as well see their library, see if they've got any interesting stuff going on. Alright, so they got Teferi. So what they're going to do is they're just going to repeatedly do this. They're going to put a bunch of Narcomoebas into play. They're going to... so they're going to put a bunch of Narcomoebas into play. Cabal Therapy us. and then they're going to Dread Return the Thassa's Oracle. We're just doing this so we can see what they've got in their deck. 2 more hits. Okay, so we can take a little look. Pretty much the exact same list that the previous person was playing. Alright, so these endurances are going to be relatively useful. Collector Ouphe has some text that maybe we do want. The chokes seem pretty useful. Plague Engineer on Wizard is going to be useful. Tourach is going to blow some stuff up pretty effectively. I think we decided we're supposed to get rid of these Green Sun Zeniths, which sounds weird. I guess the Abrupt Decay is also good here. The Grist, not sure about that. The Pithing Needle names to Fairy, so I like that one. Want to have our discard. We need to cut out some 3-drops here. If we're getting rid of the Green Suns, we definitely get rid of the Grist. This deck is probably incorrectly built if I'm boarding out Green Sun Zenith this often. Good to know. So we need to trim 5 more cards if we want all these things. I think we decided the Sudden Edicts weren't great here because they have a lot of creatures. And we're just boarding in better removal here. And then it's a case of which 2. The Haywire Mite blows up as a Saga, so I think that's worth keeping in for that. And then what are we looking at? Maybe it is the Collector Ouphe. We're not shooting for it. And then we just need to find 1 more cut. Tough out there. If we're boarding in all these 3 dots, maybe it's one of the lilies. Yeah, that's probably fine. Okay, we don't have any black mana, so I think we have to mulligan this one. This does have black mana, it has a choke, it has all sorts of good stuff in. So I think we can probably just get rid of this Wooded Foothills, and we can do Ignoble Hierarch into something good. Oh, we need to play our land first. Play this. Play this. There's our little man. So we've got him, we've got choke. Depending on what our opponent does, we'll dictate what we want to do. So we don't want to choke now. We can him with Daze Protection here, because we can pay through a Daze with our Hierarch. No cards for you. So they could brainstorm and protect something. So they could put Nomads and Cephalid Illusionist on top if they wanted to, if they have a brainstorm, and that's things they have in their hand. So they can protect their combo, the powerful A plus B combo. Yep, so here's the brainstorm that we thought might happen. The fact that they left this to get hit is a bit worrying. So we can either deal them 1 damage or we can play out our Shadowspear. I think we're just going to play out the Shadowspear here. I doubt they've kept a Daze in their hand now, unless they really don't care about the Daze. Sure. So next turn we're looking to choke or Plague Engineer, depending on what our opponent does this turn. A plane. So probably looking at Plague Engineer on Wizard here. Ideally draw a land so we can at least try and play around Daze. I think we are probably best off just trying to fail push this. Play around Daze. So we can either equip the Shadowspear now or save it later. I think we just hold open do we hold open the mana? No, I think we just get our 1 damage in. If our opponent has a 3rd Illusionist and a Nomads, then we just lose. It's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. A Shuko, sure. Okay, this turn we just have to make our guy and hope it does stuff. Wizard, please. So this means that they can't have an Illusionist in play for any amount of time. It dies to state-based effects. Now they can bounce this with a Borrower. Okay, they're stepping through for another Cephalid Illusionist. Sure. So we know they've got 1 in hand. They can't put it into play. We do have an Endurance that we can leverage here. A Ponder, sure. So we might be able to get off a choke next turn. I think they're going to be more into... I guess they could try and just make a token and put Shuko on it now, because that way it will trade with our Engineer, because our Engineer is going to be a 3/3 on attacks due to Exalted. But we can always put this on it and make it a 4/4. Okay, we have an Abrupt Decay if we want it. Interesting. So this is going to be a 3/3 on attacks. So I think we just attack with it as is. And then we can hold up Endurance and we can hold up Abrupt Decay. If our opponent taps some stuff now, we can try and choke them out. I think we're just fine here. So they're going to make a token here. They could try and pivot to the beatdown plan, but we have a bit of removal for that. They probably have a 2nd Shuko here, and maybe not a lot else to find. Now they can stick both of these Shuko. Okay, they have a Shadowspear. Put the Shadowspear on this guy and attack him. And the Shuko. So we can either kill the Construct. I think we just kill the Construct here. Black. Green. Kill the Construct, drop a choke, shut our opponent off of their mana. No, we don't want to attack with that. Let's deploy a choke. Okay, so our opponent's only going to untap their planes and their Saga. So if they've got another land, they can make a token. They're just going to equip the Shadowspear on their guy and rumble, I think. We're not incentivized to block here. I think we just take this. It is 5, but I think that's fine. We've got plenty of removal. We've got Edict effects in Liliana. Plague Engineer. Let's attack with this for 3. This one is also going to be on Wizard. Okay, Force of Will pitching the Illusionist. Alright, understood. So we just need to draw a little bit of removal, and then I think this game is fine. If they draw a land this turn, they can make another construct. Oh no, they don't get a chance to actually, because this goes off before they get a chance to play a land. So they got another Shuko. They do not. They had it in hand. Okay. Nomads and core. Sure. They're going to move their Shukos over to the Nomads. This is quite a tough guy because they can ping the damage off to something else, so I can't really attack into it. Not necessarily that I was going to, though. Interesting. So we can equip up our guy here, or we can drop an endurance if we need to. So this is going to be a 5, 6, 7 on attacks. So it will be lethal. They can attack with both, force some awkward stuff from us potentially. Do we want to equip a Shadowspear to our guy or deploy a... I think we probably just want to deploy an endurance here. So they can keep their Nomads alive. So this is going to deal us 3 damage here, but the Death Touch is going to get rid of it. Okay, they could have saved their Nomads by pinging all the damage across. So it all went on the token. So they made a slight error there. Let's equip this to this guy. Attacks. Get ourselves 5 of your finest life points there. Are we supposed to play out this Boseiju? I don't think so. No, you can make a more informed choice if you want to keep it in hand next turn or not. Okay, they've conceded. Excellent. So that felt alright. Yeah, I think we just run it back. Right, we've got 2 bits of removal. We've got a guy that can attack for a decent amount. We can keep this. Again, we have this horrible Dryad Arbor in our hand. If they play a Nomads, then we don't get to play our Hierarch. They play the Nomads. Understood. So we play this out. We have to try and hit this. Okay. Force of Will. Understood. So the Nomads Cephalid we cannot beat. Oh, they just have another Nomads. Okay. That's good for us. They did not have a second land. So I think they have the Cephalid in hand right now. So how are we supposed to beat this? If we kill one of these, it doesn't matter. We can't kill the Cephalid Illusionist because they can just combo in response. So I think the only way we win this game is by playing out Dryad Arbor, playing out our Ignoble Hierarch, and hoping that our opponent bricks on land next turn. If they do, then we can choke them off with more land, potentially. But if they have a land this turn, I think we lose. Swords to Plowshares on our little man, sure. So now I think we play out our choke here. Okay, so they can't cast Cephalid Illusions next turn. I am the Mana Screw Man. Nihil Spellbomb. This is a good draw. Okay, that's stuck. I'm pretty happy about that. So now I think we're going to hold up the Abrupt Decay or flashing in an Endurance potentially to ambush one of these Nomads. So we can trade off our Dryad Arbor and our Endurance. Well, we're not going to trade off our Endurance. We're just going to bash them with it. I don't think they're going to attack into the open Endurance mana. Okay, they're just conceding. Excellent. So we got another match there. So we're 1-1 against Cephalid Breakfast with the deck so far. I think we have the right tools. I think our deck probably needs a bit of a rebuild in terms of how we're sideboarding in this matchup especially. But we are 2-1 going into round 4, so that's all right by me. We came here to play the rack. This is our opening hand for round 4. I think we're going to keep it. The Grist can kind of fill in as a threat-ish. Great Furnace. Our opponent's playing Painter. Sure. The rack is going to be interesting in this situation because it's an artifact that they might be able to weld in and out of. So I think we are just going 1x rack. Enjoy. So we're hoping to catch some stuff with our Hymn to Tourach here. Painter's Servant. Okay. So they can hold up Pyroblast here. And we're in trouble. Tarmogoyf. Like, our hand does one thing, so we're going to do the thing. Got Pyroblast for this? Feels like they do. Yeah. Do they have Grindstone, land in hand? If so, they win the game. There's a land. There's an Engineer. Okay, so that doesn't win them the game this turn. Alright. We have a shot. So the problem is, if we use our Grist to blow up anything here, it's not actually going to work. Because they weld... Okay, so if we blow up the Painter's Servant, they weld it for Grindstone. If we blow up the Great Furnace, they weld it for Grindstone. If we blow up the Welder, they weld Great Furnace or White Blind. So blowing their stuff up isn't going to save us the game here. So with that in mind, what are we supposed to do? I don't think we're supposed to show the Sagas. We're supposed to play this out. I think we have to play the Grist and see if our opponent makes a mistake. I think that's how we win this game, sadly. I don't think making a 1-1 is going to... Oh, wait, actually, we can't even make the... We can't sacrifice anything because we haven't got any creatures to sacrifice. Yeah. We need our opponent to not go for it, which seems very unlikely. I think what our opponent's probably going to do is grind us in our upkeep They could do it now though while we're tapped out. I don't really have to play around in Endurance because all that does is buy me 1 turn. Here comes the Grindstone. Here comes the Concession. Okay, sideboard wise though, I think we're in an okay spot. Plague Engineer on Goblin is relatively decent. Abrupt Decay gets through the blasts and kills stuff. Force of Vigor kills a bunch of stuff. Collector Ouphe, very good here. Endurance, pretty damn solid at keeping us alive for another turn. Grist, not a big fan in this matchup. Not a big fan of Liliana in this matchup, weirdly. And I also don't really like the rack very much here. I think we'll take out 2 of the rack. Haywire Mite, very good. Spellbomb, very good. Pithing Needle, very good. Shadowspear, okay if we get into that sort of game. I don't really like Edict effects too much against Painter. But maybe we need them. But then are we looking at Liliana's or Sudden Edicts? We're bringing all these 3-drops, so I think we probably just take those out. We want to keep the Green Suns in so we can get the Collector Ouphe. And we've got 3 more things we can cut. If we cut Sudden Edicts, we are causing ourselves a little bit of trouble in removing things like Fury if they get into play. So I don't think we can cut the Sudden Edicts. If we're not really on the rack plan, are we getting rid of Hymns and just being a bit more surgical with our Thoughtseizes here? I do still like Ignoble Hierarch. Maybe we are supposed to get rid of the rack here, as bad as that is. Because we don't want... I guess it's going to be hard for it to get... I guess they could Grindstone us, put the rack in our graveyard and swap it around. We're bringing in a load of threats, so maybe we're supposed to just get rid of this rack. Tough. Tough out there. Playing Engineer, Abrupt Decay, Force of Vigor. Yeah, all these cards are just so good. I don't think we can get rid of them. We've got Boseijus as well. Maybe we're supposed to get rid of the rack here. I don't like it, but I'm going to go along with it. Okay, we can keep this. We can Haywire Mite if we need to on turn 1, or we can Green Sun Zenith so we can get to so we can make the Plague Engineer on turn 2, which I'm a fan of. I think that's the best way of shutting down shenanigans. Our opponent's mulligan to 5, so reasonable for us there. Okay, cast this for green. Let's go and get our little Dryad Arbor. Okay, the one time we actually wanted to get it that way, really. We didn't have it in our hand. Nice. Okay, a basic mountain, a welder. Okay, so we're going to get them with the Plague Engineer this turn on Goblin. It's going to be great. So that clears the welder. So it's already got a 2-for-1 there because we got the body and we got rid of their body. If they play out an Engineer, we can play another Plague Engineer. Okay, so we can kill their Urza Saga, or we can kill this Engineer. Let's see what they find and see how we want to navigate this turn. Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Let's keep making Plague Engineers. Goblin. Down goes the Goblin Engineer. Bash for 2 here. So we shot off another 6 cards that are in our opponent's deck as well by having both of these out. So if they've got a land, they can make an Urza Saga construct. Sure. Lightning Bolt on our Dryad Arbor. Sure. Have a Thoughtseize. I don't think we can realistically use our Thoughtseize here. I think we have to hit the Saga and leave them without the ability to tutor for anything. Alternatively, we can play out the Thoughtseize, take their hand and do it that way, or we can play out just a big guy here. How scared am I of them having multiple things? I think we're just going to play it safe. They can have a 1-1 if they want it. They can pay 2 life for a 1-1 and we can just Haywire Mite away their Urza Saga. That feels so good. Sure. So they get a 1-1. They don't get a tutor out of this. They take 2 life for this. The construct represents a chump block. We can always get rid of it with an Engineer if we really want to. And Basic Mountain. They did not attack. I think this turn we can Thoughtseize our opponent, see what they're working with. A card that we don't care about. So they can chuck out this Socken Zen, or whatever it's called, and kill one of our Engineers. How do we feel about that happening? They take 2 life, they get 2 1-1s. If they block poorly, if they put both of these under here, we can Force of Vigor it away. I think we just pass here. All right, we're not under any threat from these. We can play a Tarmogoyf next turn, and then we can attack willy-nilly because it's going to be instant, sorcery, creature, land, artifact. So we can make a 5-6 next turn. Okay, so they're playing the... Okay, so this is a Fury. Okay, that's a pretty good draw from our opponent. Arguably the best draw in their deck. All right, goodbye to those. We'll take 1 from the construct this turn. If we draw a land, we can play the Endurance. If we don't, and try and like maybe nab the Fury that way. I'd rather trade an Endurance for a Fury than a... Okay, maybe we can 2-step this. Oh, no, wait. Okay, yeah. So we try and hit an artifact with the Force of Vigor and then see what they have here. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. With this trigger on the stack, we're going to cast this. We're going to exile both of these and we're going to pitch our Endurance, and then we're going to Sudden Edict away their Fury, and then they can have a 2-2. another goblin that we can mash up with our engineers. All right. I don't think our opponent's mana is what really matters to them right now, because they got 5. So we're just going to play a 6/7 boy. Instant sorcery, creature, land, artifact, enchantment, powerful. A great furnace. So they're going to bring back their Phyrexian Dragon Engine to draw some cards here. Pithing Needle. Sure, this is probably going to name Liliana the Veil, but it could name Haywire Mite or something like Liliana the Veil. Sure. I'm attacking here. So if they have a Lightning Bolt, they can attack us here and kill our Tarmogoyf if they have a land and a Lightning Bolt exactly in hand. So there's no point trying to play around that, in my opinion. So our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. If we get rid of their Shaman token, we can turn off their Ancient Tomb. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they can't play a Fury. So I think we just get rid of their creature. Bash for 6. Turn off their Ancient Tomb. So if they top deck a Fury, they can't play it. If they play any goblins, we can Plague Engineer. Well, if they play a Goblin Welder, we can Plague Engineer it if we draw a land. Like, we're in a very good spot here. Braze Apprentice is probably the best draw they have. Painted Servant, sure. So this is just going to be chump blocking unless they've got a Pyroblast in hand. Okay, we'll just go to attacks. Is it a chump block? It is a chump block. Very good. Right, we'll play a nice Sylvan Library and pass. So our opponent, if they had a Grindstone in hand, they would have cast it. They could have had 2 Painters, I guess. All right, so we got that game. How do I feel about how we sideboarded? Pretty good. I don't think I have any changes I'd like to make here. I think we'll just resubmit and go again. Okay, we got Thoughtseize into a Plague Engineer. We have this sort of awkward Dryad Arbor clogging up our hand. I think we do keep it. Do we? He's got 4 lands. No, I think we keep it still. We want to Thoughtseize into... Ideally, drawing a 2-drop would be nice, but okay, a Saga. So if they're going for a Saga game plan, we'll try and cover that. I imagine our opponent has a Ancient Tomb in hand. That's why we lead out on Saga. Okay. Interesting selection of things here. So they can play out a Magus of the Moon if they want. I don't think they want to play a Magus of the Moon here. I think we take out the Braze Apprentice. That's the highest upside card, I reckon. I think their plan is just Ancient Tomb, play Sagas. Interesting they brought the Magus in. I thought we showed them our basics. Ancient Tomb. There's a Lotus Petal. Wow, they're just making... Oh, they drew a Fable. Sure. I was going to say, they just make a Magus and killing their own Saga. Okay. We have our owner as a Saga. So they might be incentivized to play a Magus of the Moon if we play this. So we kind of don't want to do that. I think we just play out our Wooded Foothills. So if they do play out a Magus, we can go and get a forest. That seems acceptable. We only have 1 forest in our deck though. So it's going to be a little bit hard to cast this Endurance. Okay, so they got rid of an Ancient Tomb and a Magus. Okay, so they're not committing more stuff to the board apart from a token in this turn most likely. But the Goblin can attack, and every time it attacks, it's going to make the construct bigger, which is a little bit on the annoying side. Oh, we're going to get caught by a Pithing Needle here, aren't we? Sure. Ugh, so embarrassing. Hopefully we draw a Urborg or something. Yeah, that was totally unnecessary. I didn't need to get caught by that. Ah, dear, oh dear. A Green Sun Zenith. I think we're just going to lose this game. So I think we need to Zenith for Tarmogoyf next turn. I think if we play out our Dryad Arbor, they're definitely going to abrade it, so we didn't want that to happen. We don't really want to play out our Saga this turn. We just play this one up. Yeah. Okay, so not fetching that from that time is really going to cost us here, because we could have had a Tarmogoyf in play right now. Alternatively, an Endurance to surprise our opponent with. Yeah, we're in trouble now. This can copy the construct tokens as well. I think we are in bad shape over here. I was thinking about too many things and didn't bother to fetch a response. This one's on me. Now we might have still lost this game if we did have a Tarmogoyf in play right now, but we'd certainly be in a better spot than we are. Another Fable. Yep. Yeah, our opponent's draws have been pretty solid as well. Okay. So I think we play out the Saga here. Crack this for a Bayou. Green Suns. Like, Collector Ouphe here does not do anything. It eats their Abrade, I guess. We think we need to get the... We're just going to get a Tarmogoyf. Oh, it's just a 5/6 guy. Unfortunately, they make 2 treasures on attacks and a guy. So this will be 3, 4, 5, 6. They're both be attacking at 6 6s. So I think we are just dead here. I don't think us having the Tarmogoyf 1 turn earlier would actually save us here. I think the double Fable is pretty brutal. We're on trump block duty here. We definitely did make a huge play error by not cracking this. But I think that probably buys us 1 to 2 turns. Sure, so they copy the construct. They attack us with 2 4/4s and the 2 2/2s. The 2/2s get to sail through. We block one of these. We take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're just dead. Yeah, we made a misplay, but our opponent's draw was pretty outrageous and strong. Like, we Thoughtseized them and they just drew into like one of the best cards they could have had then. But they're in their deck to draw. And our draws were a little bit rubbish. We just sort of had these sort of lands we didn't need it. We kind of wanted things like Force of Vigor. If we had a Force of Vigor earlier on, I think this changes the game quite a lot. But yeah, got beaten by Painter. It's one of the better decks, so no shame in that. We are playing rubbish little Tarmorack. All right, let's go to the final round. We're 2-2. We might be able to get a positive record with Tarmorack in 2023. It's worth a go. Let's try it. All right, we're on the play for this final round. What does our hand do? We play the rack, which isn't going to do anything straight away, and then we play Sylvan Library or Tarmogoyf. Probably Sylvan Library. It's very fair. I think we keep it on the basis of Sylvan Library being a very powerful Magic the Gathering card. Do we play out the rack? Honestly, I don't think we do. I think we just hold up the Verdant Catacombs, and then we might be able to get a Bayou here, which might be better for us if we see what our opponent's doing. A Volcanic Island. That says to me something like a Daze could be in our future here. I guess we get a Bayou here. Let's try and resolve this. We just have a handful of 2-drops, so we have to play something. I don't want to play out a Tarmogoyf and get bolted. Oh, it's stuck. That's a surprise to me. Maybe our opponent isn't like a Delvery thing and they're more of a... There could be a Storm deck with Volks in. Okay. Scalding Tarn. Doesn't really give us much more information just yet. No play. Definitely thinking not so much the Delver front right now. Yes, I would like to use the ability. Okay, so we can see what our opponent's doing with the Thoughtseize. So I think we will put this on top of Library. And I will pay for life to keep this one in hand. Alright, there's our Urborg. So, let's Thoughtseize our opponent, take the best card, and then him away the rest. This also lets us know if our him's going to resolve through a Daze or something. Oh wow. Oh wowzers. This is not what I was expecting. So I was right when I said it would be Storm related. So I think we take the Relay here. And then we're just going to him our opponent here. So Bloodstone Mire and Burning Wish. Burning Wish was one of the other ones I wanted to take, so pretty happy about that. So now we want to deploy the rack and a Tarmogoyf. This Sudden Edict not going to do much. Our opponent might find themselves wanting to do like an Orange Chance Silence type thing against us. But if that's the case, then we have Endurance that we can play at instant speed. Let's see if they silence us in our turn. They did not. So we would like to use the ability. We'll put this on top of our library. Put this on top of our library. So we're going to get silenced here. So we don't get to play our rack. But that's fine. That's one less card out of our opponent's hand. It's the silence. Play our Saga. It's our opponent's turn. They don't have white mana to kick an Orange Chant just yet. Green. Ooh, green and 1. Let's make an Endurance. Do I want these cards in our opponent's graveyard? Yes, I do. Because it's going to pump our Tarmogoyf. Let's do some Sylvan Librarying. So I think we're going to put these two on top of our library. Are they going to silence? Are they going to Orange Chant us again? We can play a threat like this. Give it attacks, and we have a Urza Saga ready to pop. So we can get something like a Wishful Talisman. A Hex. The little Mite. Haywire Mite. And then we can use it to blow up a Wishful Talisman. If that's the thing our opponent has going on. Let's see how the turn progresses for us. Now, we know there's 2 lands on top of our library that we're not really interested in. But we do get to shuffle with the Saga. Another Sylvan Library isn't very good either. So I think we'll put this on top. And this on top and just keep our little Bayou. Oh, we did not float any mana there. So we want a Pithing Needle for Wishful Talisman. Play this one out. Good attacks. Nope, we missed the damage by not playing the rack. I'm playing very sloppy. Last game of the night. Sorry about that, everyone. Tarmogoyf. I don't know if we need to play out the rack. It's not going to do anything right now. I don't think the Sudden Edict is going to do very much either, though. But opponent's on 10. They could have been on 9. Let's hope they don't win the game on 1 life. So we got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so we played a little bit sloppy with our Urza Saga there, but we still got the win. Right, sideboarding. Force of Vigor is going to be pretty good here. Plague Engineers can blow up the Goblins if they go down that route. Tourach is more hand disruption, so yes please. Collector Ouphe, excellent here. Abrupt Decays can be okay. They're more like Abrupt Okays. That was a bad pun. Okay, so we're going to get rid of our Endurances and our Grist. That's not something we need. The Liliana seems great here. This is a matchup where the rack is okay. We can kind of mess with them here a bit. I don't think Nihil Spellbomb is something we need. I don't think Shadowspear is something we need. So we've still got 5 cards too many. If we board these out, 3 cards we need to find. Is the Sylvan Library too slow? Maybe. Oh, what are we doing? We've got these Fatal Pushes and these Sudden Edicts. These are all bad, actually. So we can definitely get these in. And then we have a choice of these sorts of things. So we can have an Endurance in. We can have a Grist. If we're casting Green Sun Zenith, we're probably not casting it for an Endurance in this matchup, I wouldn't say. Unless they leave an Echo there for later. So maybe we have one, just in case that situation comes up. I think this is fine. Let's Tarmorack. Well, we've got our sideboard cards, but we haven't got any land to cast them with, so I'm pretty sure this is a mulligan. So we have 2 draws to find more land here, but we do have interaction with our opponent in the form of a Thoughtseize. 2 draws to find a land. I think we keep this. And we probably bottom the... I think it's probably the Endurance here. Our opponent's never going to leave their Echo of Eons in the graveyard in a way that we can manipulate it. Because as soon as it's in the graveyard, they get priority, and then they immediately cast it. That's usually how that works. I did a little relay turn here. They're just playing out the bauble. We shall see. Okay, this feels like it's going to be a relay turn, perhaps. No. Okay, we drew a land. So, we go and get ourselves a Bayou. We're going to Thoughtseize our opponent. They can have a Veil of Summer potentially here, but these decks tend to be playing more towards the silencers now. This could be a Brainstorm just to hide information and the good cards. But that's a Brainstorm that is doing less work than it normally would do. So not ideal, but it's something that we're working with. So I think our play next turn is probably play the Tarmogoyf, unless they like just play out an open Wishclaw Towers and they'll blow that up. But if they just play out, if they don't really play out anything that we can interact with an Abrupt Decay, I think we're just playing out the Tarmogoyf and getting ourselves a clock, because every time we reduce their life total, it makes ad nauseum worse. Let's see what they're working with. Thoughtseize, Burning Wish, Dark Ritual. Interesting. I think it's the Dark Ritual here. That gives them the ability to make more plays. So if they want to Thoughtseize us, that's going to take their turn. And they probably do Thoughtseize and take... So they haven't cracked the bauble because they want Metalcraft. Okay, this looks like an Echo of Eon's turn, perhaps. So what was in their hand was largely irrelevant, but we managed to take them off with a bit of mana. Okay, we're getting Thoughtseized. We don't have anything that interacts with you right now. We'll probably lose the Tarmogoyf or the Decay, I'd imagine. It could be the Engineer if they're going to go for some sort of Empty the Warrens line. That seems a little bit unlikely. Oh, well, not that unlikely, I suppose. They've got the Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay, they took the Abrupt Decay, which we could use on the Lion's Eye Diamond, to be fair. We can also just use our Boseiju if we draw a land on the Lion's Eye Diamond, but I don't really want to do that. Okay, so we want to play this out. We want to cast our threat. This guy's going to be pretty large. 3/4, and we can use our Haywire Mite to make it bigger. Okay, so they're going to have 3 cards for this next turn. Okay, so they're doing an ad nauseum in their upkeep off of the bauble trigger. Oh, the Echo is pretty bad for them. Yikes, this is a terrible one. Dark Ritual, okay. Mox Opal. They don't quite have Metalcraft. They have to keep going. A Brainstorm. Wow. So they're on play a fetch land, crack it, Brainstorm to try and find either some stuff to get the Metalcraft or an LED. Yikes. Tough. Yeah, it's Brainstorm or bust here. So they're going off to the Bloodstained Mire. It's probably going to be the Volk. Oh no, Badlands. Sure. I guess it doesn't really matter as long as it makes... Okay. They had another Dark Ritual there. So they can Wishclaw... Actually, they can Wishclaw for a Lion's Eye Diamond here. And then spin the Echo of Eons with mana floating. That seems okay. They also now have the Mox Opal tapped for mana here. Sure. And just Burning Wish. LED. It's just interesting they've put red into their pool. I guess they're hoping that they can draw a Burning Wish. But it's the LED is the thing they found here, so all the cards go now. And like I said, if we had an Endurance, we wouldn't have had a chance to do it. Okay, so we get to Green Sun Zenith for Collector Ouphe if they don't kill us now, but our Tarmogoyf is down to a 0/1. We could just Thoughtseize our opponent, and if we find anything we can take that isn't a sorcery, we kill them with our Tarmogoyf. Now, obviously, we just have to try and hope that our opponent can't kill us now with Storm 8, 3 mana floating and a full grip. They're casting Thoughtseize to reveal their hand, so they're showing themselves a door. So that was a pretty unfortunate. Echo of Eons for them because it. Sorry, not Echo of Eons. Ad nauseum because it hit the Echo of Eons, which really sort of jammed them up. All right, so we finished with a 3-2 record. So we had a positive record with Tarmorack in 2023. I'm pretty happy with that. But let's talk about the deck. So there's a lot of problems with this deck. So as we were seeing when we were sort of sideboarding, we were sometimes just boarding out these Green Sun Zenith, which doesn't feel like we've built our deck right if that's what we're doing. I think this deck is probably not supposed to be a Green Sun Zenith deck based on how things went here. I think we're looking more at just having just some like decent threats and things here. So we probably don't need this sort of package. I do like the fact that Grist mills you to pump Tarmogoyf. I think that's pretty cool, but maybe that's not really good enough. I think the Urza Saga tutor package is good, and that's what we should stick with. And if we board these out, if we remove these from our deck, we can get things like Tourach, and maybe we could look at possibly becoming a Dark Ritual deck. That is certainly an option we have available to us. Abrupt Decay in the main as a possibility is worth thinking about. They're obviously a 2-mana play, and we would kind of like to keep our 1-drops quite high. So the only thing we'd be boarding out would be the Sudden Edicts, but I do like the ability of having a removal spell that you know works, but Abrupt Decay is that. But it just depends what CMC your opponents are playing at and what you need to hit with the Decay. So the Decays are going to be better versus things like Painter, but the Sudden Edict is going to be better against things like Delver for the most part. Obviously, if they have another creature, you're always going to hit the lower creature anyway, whichever one you have, but this at least has the upshot of hitting a Murktide. So I think this deck is far from perfect. I think we could definitely improve it by removing these cards and trying out some Tourachs in the main, so have a couple of those. So we could do 4 Dark Ritual and 2 Tourachs if we wanted to. That would probably be quite useful. But whether or not we're a Tourach main sort of thing, I don't know. But obviously, if we're boarding these out, then it gives us options in the sideboard here. I think we could do... I like the Liliana, but if we're running a Dark Ritual list, it means that we can play our Hymn to Tourachs and Thoughtseize on turn 1, or we can play Liliana on turn 1, and then post-board, that gives us the ability to play Plague Engineer on turn 1, which can be really good in certain matchups, because turn 3 can be too slow for Plague Engineer. So maybe we should be playing the fast mana. So what I used to say before the bans happened was that every single deck that was, you know, good and playable in Legacy was running either free spells or fast mana or both. Obviously things have changed now, but I think that's not a bad way to look at Legacy when it's sort of fast and the tools at your disposal are quite strong. So we didn't have too much problem with the mana base. We did have that bit where we found that under Blood Moon we couldn't cast an Endurance if they played the Blood Moon. Now that didn't matter and they just smashed us with a bunch of other stuff. But that's worth thinking about. Sylvan Library was very good. It kind of held the whole deck together, which isn't really a surprise. Honestly, I think you could possibly run more Sylvan Library. I did once see a deck list. I think it was a Japanese tournament that it won. And it had 4 Sylvan Library in it. Now, we have Lilianas, so we have something to do with excess cards. We can pitch them away without too much hassle. They're green, so they pitch to Force of Vigor and Endurance if it needs be. So maybe we could do something here. And usually once you have 1 Sylvan Library, the other Sylvan Libraries don't get drawn into your hand because you're constantly looking for your deck. It's just a case of you don't want to have 2 in your opening grip, or have 2 before you get the first one down. So that's one thing to think about that we could do. We could up the Sylvan Library count. We could also, instead of playing Dark Rituals, we could play Chrome Moxes. What Chrome Moxes would allow us to do would be to play Hymn to Tourachs on turn 1 if we needed to. We could throw away additional Sylvan Libraries in the sort of mid to late game if necessary. They will pump our Saga constructs. They will also allow us to deploy... We don't really want to deploy Tarmogoyf on turn 1, to be fair. But it will just give us a way of accelerating up the curve so we can make turn 2 Lilianas. Now, in some matchups, making a Tarmogoyf on turn 1 might be okay, because you could play the Tarmogoyf if you know your opponent's not going to necessarily have removal for it, and then the following turn, you can then attack with a Liliana or something. So I think we need possibly some fast mana here to put it together. I don't think we want to be running a Green Sun Zenith package anymore, which also means you get rid of this horrible Dryad Arbor, which jammed us up a bunch of times. And it means that we have less lands that can't cast Hymn to Tourach. So I think we got... This could just be another land, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards to play within the main deck to begin with. I might come back to this one. It seemed quite fun. We didn't really get to do anything with the rack, unfortunately. But we did play the rack, and it forced our opponent to have a Swords to Plowshares in their hand at that precise moment in order to not die. And they had it, and we lost. But if it went the other way, then we could have won that matchup, and maybe we'd be looking at a 4-1, which would be ridiculous for this deck, to be honest, because this is definitely not a 4-1 deck. Sideboard-wise, I think the tools we had available were good and fine for what the meta is right now. If you lose the Green Sun Zenith package, you probably need more Collector Ouphes, which is something important to think about. So this does kind of let you cheat on your sideboard slots a bit. And also, if we're losing these, maybe we can think about losing Endurances and having just a ley lines in the board, because you know me, I love my ley lines. And if you're a ley line deck with discard, you can have the ley line, then you can discard away the Serenity or whatever answers the ley line pretty early on, and then you're on easy street at that point usually in the matchups where you're bringing in ley line. Ley line is also still pretty good against the Delver decks, but again, part of the problem we have is that we need graveyards in the form of Tarmogoyf here. So if we're removing our opponent's graveyard, we have to kind of do it all ourselves. I did have an earlier iteration of this build that was running Grim Flayer, which is a green and a black 2/2 with Delirium gets +2/+2. It's got Trample, and also whenever it attacks and deals combat damage to a player, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library and you can put them in your graveyard if you want to, or put them back in any order. So that would be a more Delirium focused deck where we could have these guys in with the Grim Flayers, and then we could use the Grim Flayer to power up our own Tarmogoyfs and possibly have some amount of like Mishra's Bauble or something in here just to try and push through a little bit. I think that's an option that we could think about, but this build was a little bit simpler, and I think maybe jumping through those hoops isn't actually going to be that useful, because a 2-mana 2/2, you know, that you have to get online doesn't feel great to me. All right, I think we are done here. I hope you enjoyed this one and a little blast from the past. Every now and then I like to play just a bit of an old deck, see if it can have some new life breathed into it. And this was kind of a deck that was in and around standard when I started playing F&Ms. So that was like Lorwyn had just come out, I think. So, you know, people running Thoughtseize, the Rack, and Tarmogoyf, all of this was legal, which is kind of crazy to think about, really, if you think of how strong Tarmogoyf is compared to normal standard cards were back then. And obviously Thoughtseize, best discard spell ever. So yeah, it's a nice blast from the past. I enjoyed playing it. I might revisit this. I definitely think it could do with an overhaul. And I think we've got some good testing here. If you yourself play this deck and make some changes, I'd like to hear what you do with it, or things that you think we're missing that we could have done. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, especially subscribe. I really need subscribers. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.